Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Rotation Championship Edition. It's Champs time, baby. I'm hyped. It's finally here. I mean, wow. Røkkr wins stage 5, the tournament right before Champs, and now it's Champs. I mean, in the title, it's asking if we could go back to back, and it made me real nervous because I've been starting to get real stitious this week. Some would say superstitious. Anyway, I'm Ashley, aka MiDNiTE, here as always with IKON and Kingdom to break it down. Obviously, after the stage 5 victory, we had an amazing rotation episode with all of the players on it. It was exciting. We talked about everything from the big win to hair care. The guys are a good time, but we're back with the normal crew this week to talk Champs. So where do we even begin? Like, this is the big one. This is the week. We've literally referenced this all year on the podcast, talking about points that lead up to this weekend, the standings that lead up to this weekend, and now we're finally here. So I guess I would just love to know, like, your guys' impressions. How you feeling Champs Week, and what are you kind of expecting to see this weekend?
Yeah, I guess I'll go first here. I think the biggest thing for me is the storylines going into Champs, and I think that there are quite a few squads here that have to have a good weekend, or you could probably say that this entire year has kind of been a letdown for some of these squads. Like, you look at, just for example, if you're looking at the bottom part of the seeds, the Floridas, the LA Thieves of the world, like, Florida has been competitive the entire year, but then again, they really haven't, right? We haven't seen them in a championship Sunday. We haven't seen them in a grand finals, even though they definitely have the talent to be there. Then you have LA Thieves, a ton of hype going into this year around LA Thieves. Same thing. You haven't really seen them with all the turmoil with their rosters and the moves and the changes. And it just seems like they're a squad that has to have some sort of run here to really make this year a success. And then the big one, if you look towards the top, obviously is OpTic. We have seen OpTic in pretty big spots, but we have not seen them in a grand finals. And that's just something that we're not really used to seeing from that squad. So if you look at some of the others, like if you look at Atlanta and Toronto and us, like, we've gone out. Those other squads have gone out and they've won majors. So in a way, you could say that this year, I mean, winning a major is massive for what you're determining as whether or not this year is a success or a letdown or whatever. So getting already a major victory, if you come out and you place third or fourth or whatever, I think overall you would say that was a pretty good year. Obviously, that's not the goal. Everybody's goal every year in competitive COD is to win champs, but there are some of these top 8 squads that have been super competitive that might not have a ton to look back on when the year is over, despite the fact they were easily in champs, they were easily in the top 8, but they haven't made any huge headlines. So for me, I'm going to be looking at the Floridas, the LA Thieves. Maybe you could even say like the Dallas. I know Dallas was in a grand finals. They weren't quite able to pull it off, but I think for that organization, especially coming off of what they did last year and winning champs last year, I mean, who knows? Maybe they need.
What if they went back to back?
Ooh.
Like, we're just trying to go back to back in August, but what if they go back to back champs?
I'll count them out.
Yeah, well, I know Kingdom will be rooting for him.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is this IKON giving Dallas some sort of like props or positive?
No, can't be.
This is not possible. No, Kingdom. I'd love to know your thoughts though on just like how we got here in this weekend.
Yeah, I do want to correct IKON. You know, he said Dallas made a final. They made 2. You know, there's only 4 teams that have made a grand finals this entire year out of 12. And if ROKKR didn't make it in this last one, it probably would have been Dallas and Toronto or FaZe and Toronto, and it would have been the same 3 teams that are just vying for championships. There is a team, and IKON mentioned it, and it's very true. OpTic Gaming, OpTic Chicago. They, we said it in the last event. If they don't place like top 3, it's kind of like they're already the writing's on the wall. You know, we know Seth has not signed his contract yet because he wants to see what the game is going to be. It doesn't have anything to do with like the team makeup or anything like that. In the history that he's been with the team, I believe they've only not won a championship on 1 title. I don't even know if they made a grand finals in World War II. And so this is a version of OpTic that we haven't seen before. Yes, they are still OpTic Chicago. When they show up, everybody chants green wall and let's go OpTic and all that kind of stuff. But it's good for the sport when they actually get to a grand finals at least once or twice a year. You know, it's good for exposing people to what
I was hoping so bad for stage 5 they would make it.
It would have been
imagine?
ROKKR versus OpTic. I mean, ROKKR would have won, you know, like 5-1, but it would have been good.
You think? Would you? Oh, bro, like I don't know.
Nobody was touching ROKKR at that event.
True, yeah, we were on
Like,
fire.
Toronto tried and they went up 4-0 and still couldn't close the door. Like the ROKKR were easily, and I watched Saga. Shout out Joe Fries. I mean,
Shout out Joe Fries.
That production, the editing, freaking phenomenal. Andy did most of the camera work because I saw them talking to him throughout the video.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we've seen Roger do stuff like that. Like that was, I mean, very, 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 very high level in terms of showing the insides of the ROKKR organization. And I'm just gonna say it. There are 4 teams that have a chance at winning this event, in my opinion. It's those same 3 and the Minnesota ROKKR. I honestly believe that, I don't remember the stat, but I think the team that has won the event before Champs and then won Champs is likely. And so...
Really? I thought it was the opposite, right? Or no?
No, I mean, well, we know eUnited did it.
Yeah, only eUnited's done it, I'm pretty sure.
And then Dallas, did they lose the event before Champs last year?
Yeah.
It was FaZe that won it, maybe?
I think it was FaZe. It was FaZe or New York. Or maybe it was Toronto. Okay. I'm sorry.
One of those teams.
Yeah, I think it was Toronto because the last one was the Toronto home series, and they beat Atlanta in the final.
Yeah, and they won their own home series, which I thought was so dope.
Yeah, right. That was cool. I mean, it's cool when you get to do that.
Tiny in the chat. What's good, chat? But no, sorry, Kingdom. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying.
It's rare to win the 2 at the end.
Minnesota ROKKR have the opportunity. They have the teamwork. Everybody is going to look into their S&D because it was absolutely ridiculous at stage 5, and everybody's going to have some counters for them and some hard counters. But if they can just be ahead of the curve, change it up again. It sounds like from watching Saga, like having Mike Major Maniac do a lot of the shout calling is what helped them, and so I'm sure they'll keep that up. It's not like they have an easy road, but they had the most difficult road to winning a championship any team has ever had. And I heard Standy say something that I never thought about. He called their reverse sweep the greatest comeback in esports history. He didn't say
it's true
COD esports history. And I was like, dang, like no. 04, I don't think we'll ever hear of something like that. And so I really think that this is going to be an amazing slugfest of an event. Up to Chicago, we say it every single time there's a tournament. They got a lot to prove. I think we were talking about it in pre-show. I think that OpTic could make a change if they do not, especially if they don't place top 3. But they could get beat by the New York Subliners with the returning Clayster in the first round of this event and go straight to the losers bracket, and then the road gets that much harder, at Champs because you're facing off against the best teams in the league. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to some kind of runs by maybe Florida or LAT. But to be honest, and I'm just going to say it because a lot of times we do this thing every single year, where if there's any online, we call the online different. We're like, well, if it was on LAN, the best teams in this league right now would be the best teams if this was online or LAN. It's the same top organizations, top teams. I've always believed that Minnesota, of course, belongs in that conversation. And I'm so happy that you guys got a chip. Like, this is it was amazing.
Dude, our first chip. Yeah. Like,
congratulations.
I mean, you should. I mean, we do count, our lovely Warzone content creators, players. They're out there winning those tournaments. Shout out Almond. Like, it's a good time. But yeah, to win like a chip feels amazing, and it's kind of messed up. I don't know where we're at on this, but I'll have to follow up and start asking around. There's no freaking trophy for the majors in CDL, which is kind of crazy because last year they were like, yeah, the teams in charge of the home series they should make a trophy. Which, if we would have had a tournament last year, I think we would have. We had the opening event, which was like an exhibition type, or no, it wasn't exhibition because the points kind of, but it was like not a tournament basically, so we couldn't get a trophy. But this year, it's only CDL that's putting all these tournaments. So I'm like, hey,
hot take,
like a freaking trophy for this one. I think we're just gonna make our own. Honestly, I'm not sure what it's gonna look like, but yeah, it's well deserved.
potential hot take on that.
Yeah, what do you think? No trophy or yes trophy?
I think that they're trying to become more like sports leagues. The terminology even for
Clip that. Put it on Twitter.
Clip it and ship it. The terminology terminology even for champs has turned to playoffs. They didn't force any of you guys to say it that way. Like, players are you hear kind of a little bit on other podcasts, people mentioning playoffs, but for the most part, everybody calls it champs. It's historically been called champs. But what I think they're changing the terminology to where the championship is the last match. It's not all of the matches that are in playoffs. And so I think they're moving towards, there's one trophy every year, and it's to whoever wins champs at the end of the year, because it's more of a playoff system. Teams are eliminated and not even getting to play in it. It's not the open bracket type stuff we're used to from the past. Like, it's changing a lot, and it definitely feels lame when you win an event and don't get a trophy, when historically in Call of Duty history, you look at Hector's Wall or any of these players that have won a lot, and they've got stacks and stacks of trophies, and you've got Crims, who's, he's won championships last year, and maybe this year he has a chance at champs, but it's like he's got trophies for all that stuff from the past. And so it is different. If I'm a player that's been around for a long time, I probably don't like it. But it, again, just gives you, it's like the Stanley Cup thing, it's like it just gives you something like that, the throne that they got last year and all that with the big, trophy. Like, it gives you something to aim for. And I think if I'm a standee or one of these newer players, I'm not as frustrated that I don't get a trophy for every win. I want that one, and that's what I think they want players to talk about and aim for, maybe.
Honestly, Kingdom, I know I said lame, but that actually is pretty sound and thought out, well-rounded opinion there on the whole trophy thing. But still, if you win a tournament, like, a home series where it's group play, whatever,
right.
Who cares?
Get a trophy.
I care a lot. I care a lot because it ultimately leads to the seeding for this event. We're all super excited about this weekend. But, like, you know what I mean? Like, trophy-wise, who cares? But for a tournament,
right,
to do the greatest esports comeback in history on LAN, and you get a fucking plus whatever points and a high five on the way out the door, like, no, we should get a trophy. Yeah, we're gonna get him a trophy. This boys deserve a trophy. It's gonna be sick. Yo, Tiny in the chat. Shouts Tiny. I personally think Majors deserves a trophy and keep champs as trophy and ring, but what Kingdom is saying definitely makes sense. Kingdom often makes sense. They're trying to turn it into a real sport vibe. I get it. And listen, I'm not like a lot of esports folks are averted to, like, no, it should never be like traditional sports. There are things that we can swagger jack from traditional sports for sure. But like I said, if you show up to a LAN with 12 freaking teams and you walk out of that thing the number one team of that weekend, I think you should get some. What if, bro, this is going to probably sound lame, but, like, what if they gave, like, a literal chip? Like a little, like, here, let me look at this.
Ooh, it could be a collector's item for real. Yeah,
like this. Like, okay, this
but
is
it was
not
like gold.
a championship, but like if this was like a literal chip.
Yeah.
Shout out Sledgehammer Games. Shout out Vanguard. Shout out my cat Simba. Okay, get out of here, bud. What are you doing? Jesus. Anyway, I don't know. What if they gave like an actual chip though?
No, I think that'd be legit, because only a few people would get it. Like, that'd be awesome.
You say, how many chips you got? This is like, bro.
Ooh,
and they all played poker with them or something? Just kidding. CDL players don't gamble. Okay, my camera's out of focus now. So I don't know, man. I'm excited for champs though. Like I said, we've been talking all year about the lead up to this event. Every home series, every group play match, every major has ultimately stacked points leading to this moment. I honestly, like, I shouldn't say I didn't expect Røkkr to win stage 5, but like you guys know I've maintained my belief in the team on this podcast. And yes, it is because I'm a purple Kool-Aid drinking homer for sure. But like, I truly believe, like, on paper, you look at this team, you're like, okay, like, they could do it.
Yep.
And then they have these minor changes of their roster throughout the year. Standy comes in and his freaking hair's on fire. Like, he just is going crazy. And you're like, okay, like, if they could just, I've been saying the whole time, like, if they could just fire on all cylinders, get it all working together, they could be nasty. And then they were. Like, and so, I don't know, my fear now is we talk about, you know, the teams. I believe, I mean, we'd have to go look at, like, COD Gamepedia or whatever, but I'm pretty sure that UNiTE is the only team that has ever won the last 2 events of a season.
OpTic didn't when they won champs.
No, it was like I think that was a part of like the curse. I'm pretty sure Envy won before the event
before they got second, like
yeah,
10
maybe
times.
I don't know. We'd have to look. But yeah, it's just
good question.
It's crazy, bro. It's crazy. I'm just hoping the guys can keep the momentum, keep this vibe going into LA. The guys just got there yesterday. I'm so stoked for them. I hope they're just like getting ready to lock in. I mean, we've talked a lot about like confidence and whatnot, how if they just play confidently, you know, they can hang. Like if they believe in themselves, they can hang with the best teams in the league. And when it looks like they finally just locked into that confidence, they started playing well together. It was just awesome to see at the last event. So I'm just hoping they can maintain that going into this last event of the year. It was pretty crazy. Like, I'd love to know you guys' takes on this actually. So we premiered Saga, as you guys have kind of mentioned already. It's our docu-series here that we do following the Minnesota Røkkr team. The episode featuring Stage 5 Majors is up on our YouTube channel now, so go check it out after the podcast, of course. But it's like insane. Like the first 4 to 5 minutes is group play. The last like 38 minutes, LAN. And like behind the scenes looks, interviews, everything that you're trying to like know, reliving the reverse sweep S9. Literally every time I go into our office, we have a wall with like 9 screens on it. It's freaking ridiculous. I go up to that. I go to YouTube. I put on the ROKKR match. I fast forward till we're down 0-4. And I hit play every day, dude. Every day. I'm just reliving it. And I'm just hoping that we can carry that energy though into champs, because that's exactly what we need to do. So hoping the boys can do it. I'm nervous. I don't know. I'm starting to get real superstitious. I'm like, what was I wearing when they won? Does that matter? Is that too self-centered to think maybe? Like, what were they wearing? They should wear that again. Like, what did they eat for breakfast that morning? Let's arrange that. Let's make sure that's the same. I don't know. Definitely an anxiety, OCD thing going on there. But I want to talk about quick, not just because, like, you know, I have a crystal ball in front of me at all times and I know everything that's going to happen. I have swung into the lead on predictions and stayed there. And I also miraculously predicted that Clayster would be back on the New York Subliners lineup for champs. First of all, I feel bad for DiamondCon. I think this is the 2nd year in a row that this has happened to him for champs, and that's got to be pretty heartbreaking. I don't think he played poorly for NYSL. But yeah, Clay's back for champs. I figure like it's Clayster, man. He just needed a little reset vibe. They didn't even play very well without him. So, yeah, let's go. Producer Shannon, yo, while you guys are here, hit the like button. Hit the like button. Tell your mom about us. Get her in here. Get her to hit the like button from her iPad. Whatever you got to do, help us out. But yeah, I would love. I mean, your thoughts, guys, on Clayster coming back. I thought not a dig, because I do love New York Subliners social content quite a lot, but I thought the manner in which they announced him in kind of a really meme format way was, I don't know. I just felt bad for DiamondCon, basically. I would love to know your guys' thoughts, though. Clay coming back, all that.
Yeah, so I think if you had to take the 8 squads that are here in champs, you know, at the tournament this weekend, I think there's probably one really that's a really big question mark, and I think it's New York. I think you kind of know what you're going to get out of the Floridas and the LA Thieves, and I think the big matches will be if OpTic wins that and plays FaZe, or whoever wins between us and Dallas. I think we have Dallas's number right now, so that's a big matchup, you know, between ROKKR and Ultra. If that's the next matchup, I think those are going to be the big storylines. But if you're looking outside of those really massive matchups, it's obviously what type of New York are we going to get, because it really wasn't that long ago. It was only a couple stages ago where New York was one of the best teams in the league. There was a stage or a stage and a half there where Hydra came on. He was by far the best hardpoint player in the CDL. The stats he was putting up were absolutely ridiculous. Clayster was like a top 3 AR. They looked for a stage and a half like nobody could really beat them outside of maybe Atlanta. And then everything happened, and Asim wasn't there for a major, and Clayster steps back, and then things have kind of fell by the wayside for them over the last major or so. But now Clay is back, and they have that roster, and they're all going to be there. Asim is there, Clay is back. It's just, is it potentially too little, too late? Like, is there enough time for them to really get back up to speed, to play at the same level that they were playing before? So I don't know. I will say I wasn't quite sure if Clay was going to come back. I just didn't see how, okay, they brought in Diamond Con. This is their squad. Let's see how they end up improving over the course of stage 5. And if they make some headway, well, maybe they can take that squad into champs and they can just build off of what they did for the previous stage. And it seems like every time you see squads, and I know that NYSL is a little bit different, but if you think to like London was on a pretty clear upward trajectory. They made their roster moves and they had a setback. You kind of saw that with Paris, and you've kind of seen that outside of maybe like Dallas and Toronto, like those top squads. But any of those squads that made roster, LA Thieves, they made a roster move. They had a little bit of a setback before they were able to regain. And it just seems like, is New York also there now? I know that they're back to a roster that they performed well with earlier, but they have to play together, and there's much more that goes into it. So I don't know. For me, it just comes down to, are they going to have enough time to get back into it? And their first matchup is against OpTic. So what's the deal going to be there? So we'll see what happens. I just don't know if they've had enough time.
Yeah, I'll be really interested to see, like, because I think Clay is the type of player that can have an immediate impact on the team, but from, the tweets we saw, the Twitch chat screenshots we saw, the general consensus it seemed among like the news channels like Tactical Rab in the scenes that the vibes for the team were a little shocked, knowing like Clay needs a break and he's got to go take his time, but he's also kind of leaving his team hanging there. Like, does that mean he gets to come back or not? I think like it just his leadership. I mean, we're just talking about this guy. He's won back-to-back champ, right?
Yep. He could try. He's trying for a 3-peat.
He's literally going for like 3 in a row. He's won how many of them? 3 of them? 4 of them?
3.
Can't even recall. It's just he's just that legendary. And like, I don't know. I feel bad for Diamond Con, but I do think, Icon, what's good? How was picture day? Just kidding. Icon's camera messed up. He
didn't wear his glasses to picture day.
He did. He's got his headshot there for now. We're gonna fix his camera if we can. But anyway, like, yeah, I don't know. I think, does Clay deserve to come back? For sure, of course. Did Diamond Con deserve to get dropped again right before champ? No. Great player, great kid. I think he'll be back next year.
The challenge is like, what Censor had tweeted that day. It's like Diamond Con missed out on the other champs for the Challengers League because he was filling in for Clayster, and then now he's missing out on champs because Clayster wants to come back. I of course love Clay. We were a Clayster gas fest on this show until he took his break, but
and even even after, I feel like he's
he's Clay.
Legend.
Exactly. Like, you never know. He could show up at champs with he's grew a new ponytail that we haven't seen. Like
he might show up with a ponytail.
I think that the organization had no choice. Hydra is now their best player, 1.2 KD for hardpoint KD for the entire season, 1.1 respawn KD for the entire season, one of the best players in the league, easy. And right now you have 3 rings of experience on New York. Before Clayster came back, you had none. No one had done anything at champs. And so I think they needed his experience. I think also he's been the face of the franchise and the org. And if he was trying to prove a point, which is not cool, we've talked about it, he did prove his point that they are not the same team without him. They need his leadership. They need his guidance. They need his screaming and yelling. They need his gas. They need all of it to be successful. I think Asim, Hydra, Diamond Con, Mac all have a bright future in the Call of Duty League. But none of them can lead like Clay right now. There's only maybe 4 players we could name that have been playing as long as Clay and are still in the league and are still doing a good job in the league. And, him and Krim and Scump are the first three that popped in my head immediately when I think about longevity in our league that can still play at the highest level, and all of them are playing at the highest level. And so New York had a chance to win a chip this year, and they didn't. I think Clay feels like they gave that up, because they played like the ROKKR in that event, and then when they got to the finals, they just were not the same. It just, and they took an L, and I mean, it's good to see Clayster back. To be honest, him not being at Champs would be awkward. It would be there's only one player in history, in my opinion, that wasn't at Champs that should have been, and is at his level, and that's Karma. I really feel like Karma should have been at Champs on OpTic the year that they decided that he wasn't going to play at Champs, because at that time he was the winningest player in Champs history. Just throw him on the sticks for no other reason than that he's like an apathy. He's proved he can do it, and even at this last event, App's last event, he showed up enough to where I think he'll still be back in the league. He proved that, like, I still can do it. At the end of the year, I can still be apathy and go on 3 10+ streaks on the same map. Like, whatever he was doing was crazy. So they had no choice, in my opinion. You can't fault New York, because if they were loyal to Diamond Con, they probably would have lost to OpTic in the first round of Champs, and then went to the,
You're the best kingdom.
I mean, it wouldn't have, like, now I'm like, they could win.
Yeah.
They could beat OpTic. Like, OpTic, yeah, I'm glad Scump and Dylan and Envoy got their positive tests or their negative tests and can go and play, because if they weren't, it would have been chalked per se.
Man.
Like, New York would have took them out, and then they would have lost in the first round to Florida or whoever, and they would have been done. And OpTic would have had, one of their worst placings this year. And so I think Clay was the natural choice to bring back. If he wants to, the front office is not going to say no to that.
He's going to lock in. He's going to lock in. But now I'll be excited to see, like, is there extra expectation now on Clay? Because he has won 2 in a row. 2 in a row Champs.
Yep.
And then the United year where he did win the last 2 tournaments of the year after having a really long dry spell. Like, it's just his whole trajectory, his whole career is just so impressive. So I'm excited to watch Clay and NYSL play this year. Speaking of players that we're excited to see play, I have kind of a random question, and maybe it's definitely more of an after Champs discussion, but I was wondering, do you, like, in your head, when you think of, like, the best player in CDL, like the CDL2021 MVP, maybe you already have a thought of who that might be, does this player's performance at Champs, like, them winning that award, is it dependent on Champs to you? Like, is this last tournament, like, the one that's going to solidify who's in the MVP running? I would love to know your guys' thoughts. I know we talked about, like, the MVP nominations previously, but just wanted to know, like, going into this weekend, how are you guys looking at that MVP candidate list?
I guess I'll say this. I'll say, if you look at those Atlanta FaZe guys and you think about how their year ended, so got smoked by us in Major 5 and then got upset by Seattle. And then if they come out and say they match up with Chicago and they lose to Chicago, and then they go 0-2 again at Champs and they fizzle out and they don't have a single victory at Major 5 or at Champs, wow. I think it's probably pretty tough to say, okay, yeah, Abizi, you're the MVP or whoever. I feel like they have to play well for one of those players to win. So, yes, but I think if, like, say they lose in losers finals or something like that, I think that's enough. I'm not saying it would go to one of them, but I don't think they have to particularly win Champs to say, okay, now you're the MVP. I just think that they have to have a good showing this weekend and see what happens from there. I'm not even sure. I know that when it comes to, like, the finalist and who's there or whatever, sure. But I'm not even sure if you could really say at this point, like, who those finalists are. I think when you're looking at who's the potential for winning MVP, like, Dashy is up there, which, sure, Dashy has been super instrumental to what OpTic has done this year. He's had a really fantastic year, one of the best KDs. He's been the definition of consistent when it comes to play throughout all game modes the entire season. Great. But he hasn't really popped off and won his team an event. You know what I mean? I feel like there has to be an MVP type moment for a player to win MVP. And I guess you could say that about the players from Atlanta and Cammy as well. I mean, Cammy has been lights out this year, but kind of the same thing. Yes, they got ultra reverse swept by us or whatever. But if they come out and they don't play,
sorry. That's me. I'm ultra as frick, baby.
But if they don't come out and they don't have a good champs, I don't know how you can really consider one of them the MVPs. I just feel like when it comes to Call of Duty, MVP is like who's going to win MVP is so speculative. Like who's to say that Attach or Standy couldn't be in the running for MVP? I mean,
right?
What those two did at the Stage 5 major, they absolutely went off. And seeing the leadership from Attach, that's one of the things that I was most impressed with from that latest episode of Saga was just how Attach was able to just constantly remain cool and his leadership abilities and how to make sure that his team was focused. I feel like those are MVP qualities. And sure, yeah, you get that from the Sims, you get that from the Abizis, but it just seems like when it comes to COD as a whole, it's really tough to break down, especially before that major 5 was even over. Like, okay, these are going to be the 4 candidates or whatever. So I don't know. For me, if Atlanta fizzles out and they go 0-2 in champs and they don't make any run whatsoever, I don't really see how you can name one of them MVPs, even though it seems like they've won almost everything this year. I don't know. It's tough for me. I think a lot of it's just going to have to come down to let's see what happened. Let's see how champs played out and then see, okay, this team made a run. Obviously, Cammy was instrumental to that run, or Shotzi was instrumental to what Dallas did, or whoever ends up making a run. But yeah, if you don't have a good champs, I feel like if you're talking about the biggest moment, you have to perform in that biggest moment to be considered, at least in my book.
I think that oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, you go ahead, Kingdom.
No, I was just going to say, I think if Dallas, Toronto, or FaZe win champs, you pick a player off of their team, whoever's been the best all year, and you give it to them. I mean, it's an obvious, like, again, like I said at the beginning, those 3 teams have basically been in the conversation for a grand finals in every single stage that we've had. And so they've obviously been playing well. Each team collectively, even FaZe, has now had at least one really bad major. And so, and New York had a couple of them, but they had only had one before they dropped Clay. So I think if Clay wouldn't have left, you could have had him win champs and get MVP easily. Go ahead, sorry.
We're getting a little bit, so just to not like confuse anybody. So we're talking about the season MVP,
right?
In which
not the champs MVP.
5 players have already been submitted for that. It's Shotzi from Dallas, Simp from FaZe, Cammy from Ultra, Abizi from FaZe, and then Celium from FaZe, which is nuts that they have literally
3 people.
3 people.
So if
of
FaZe doesn't
5.
win, if FaZe, like let's say FaZe, Dallas, and Toronto don't win champs, and it's like the ROKKR or Chicago, or
what if it's ROKKR?
I mean, I'd want to give it to Standy, but he's
For
not
sure,
on the list.
right?
He's gonna.
I
I mean,
know,
he'd definitely get the rookie of the year.
This is the whole crux for why I asked the question, because like I'm looking at this now and like yes, like only 3 teams have won a chip this year. Shout out to the chips. It's Toronto, FaZe, and ROKKR. And
right.
If you're looking at this many FaZe folks in the top 5 for MVP, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I'm not positive. I'm trying to read here and see like when they're announcing this or how that's decided. I'll be really curious to see. And then there also, I believe, will be a champs MVP. So like the MVP of the tournament, similar to how you'd have, you know, MVP of other like sports leagues, finals and whatnot. So, I mean, I don't know, man. It's pretty interesting to kind of see how Call of Duty shakes out, especially when you have such a weird year where a lot of the year is played online, and now you have these final, you know, 2 or 3 LAN events to really like solidify who's real, who's not real. I do think that most teams, other than like Seattle Surge, maybe, you know, their online play to their LAN play is different, but everyone else seems pretty standard. I don't know, man. I'm so nervous. I'm such a Minnesota sports fan. Shout out to all those others who feel my pain. I'm getting like nervous because like, you know, it's looking good. Some good stuff just happened. It was crazy. but we still got a long way to go this weekend. We're not even. The job's not finished. If you watch Saga, you know the ending. The job's not finished. Shout out Standy. Standy won player of the stage, and for stage 5, I have never seen. I mean, I shouldn't say never, because I've definitely seen players like turn up and take control of like a finals. But in that best of 9 reverse sweep comeback, Standy just played so phenomenally, just absolutely nutty. He was so insane, and like. In Search, he was just like on another level as well. Like, I don't know. It's a team effort, and without all of our guys firing on all cylinders, that can't happen, obviously. But man, just he so impressed me. It's those types of plays, especially when you're such a new player. This was his what? First time playing in front of fans on LAN, like on a main stage, was this weekend, where they absolutely dominated. He's doing his zombie walk, like he's feeling himself. I hope he can, remain focused. It's just a big moment, and for him to step up to the occasion or rise to the occasion was a huge deal for me. So, yo, Andrew Larson in the chat. Yo, this is actually applicable to what we're gonna probably talk about next. Still haven't submitted my champs bracket yet because I can't choose.
Ooh,
tough.
It's hard, dude. I mean, I don't know. So we usually do like our predictions here on the podcast. I don't think we're going to go through and do the whole bracket. I think we're probably going to rock our predictions segment here on the broadcast as usual. And then I think we'll come out with like graphics each day with the 3 of our predictions for champs. Hey, while we're on the subject, who's ahead in the prediction point?
Hey, we got a long ways to go. There's a lot of important matches coming up here.
What are these matches like worth extra points or what? Wait, are they? Yo!
Goodness. That's just embarrassing.
Kingdom, you doing all right. You got 800.
Wait, that's really the lead?
Yeah, bro.
What?
Yeah. I predicted ROKKR to win stage 5, and I got some of the map counts right. So well, I'm telling you guys, I got the crystal ball. No, it's not over. Wait, is it? Wait, Shannon,
I'm the Seattle Surge out here. It's chalked for me.
I'm pretty bad at I'm pretty bad at math, but I'm not sure how many possible matches there. I mean, if you predicted some upsets and got some like map counts right, you could make it horrible.
Close.
I can't wait to design my championship. Just kidding. No, I'm gonna jinx myself. I'm gonna jinx myself. Abby in the first half. Yo, I'm reverse sweeping the predictions this season. I was behind the whole season until August. No BS. So nutty. Anyway, though, but yeah, I mean, listen, these points are meaningless unless you win, of course. I'm so sorry. I'm a sore loser and I'm a sore winner. I've not even won yet, and I'm the absolute worst. So that takes us nicely into our next segment, which if these picks were in person on LAN, Kingdom would be winning. Yo, true, because you're like the Surge, huh?
Hilarious.
Okay. All right, guys, let's do our predictions this week for champs. The rotation predictions presented by USAA Insurance. Big shouts out to them. USAA is military insurance that serves military members and their family with a unique understanding of their members' needs. USAA provides proactive service and exceptional products. Shout out to USAA. Let's get into these predictions, guys. So we don't have too much to predict. We're just going to predict, what we know in this video. We're not going to release a whole bracket. We're just going to be doing our predictions right now. And then every day in a graphic, you're going to see us hopefully get it right. Hopefully. Dude, round 1 here. I have like an unlikely take here. We're talking about Clayster coming back on NYSL. We're talking about OpTic with these, distractions ahead of the event. OpTic all year alluded to, turning up on LAN, and I think they frequently get in that mindset of like champs is where we turn up. I feel like they unduly put a lot of pressure on themselves with that mentality, just totally like my just outside perspective there. But it's a lot of pressure coming into champs that, the fans expect a lot from OpTic, and I'm, hopefully they can rise to the occasion. The subliners, I mean, man, what a wild time. You have Clay going off the team. We had a Seam missing an event. They've had a rocky end to the season, but with Clayster coming back in the lineup, OpTic being a little distracted, You never, and like Asim turns up on land. Like that guy gets hype. Asim getting hype, Hydra going off, Clayster popping off, Mac melting. Like it could. I'm. All this is to say, I think it's going to be a close match. I do think OpTic will win, but if Subliners won, I would not be very surprised. I'm going to predict OpTic 3-2 here. Who you guys got?
Yeah, I'll go. I think there's a couple question marks on both sides here. I think you hit the nail on the head when it comes to NYSL, just because Clay's coming back. Do they find lightning in a bottle, or have they not had enough time? I think that there's a big question mark there. Had they just had the same roster the entire time, then there's no question marks for NYSL. They're probably still performing really well. They probably finished top 3 or 4 at the Stage 5 major. Like, there was a point in time where they were a top 2 squad in the CDL. And we talked a little bit earlier about all the things that they went through. But the question here in this matchup is, are they just going to be able to return to form, or have they not had enough time? And when it comes to OpTic, the big question mark for me is, what's the quality of practice that they've been able to get in since the Stage 5 major? We know that, you know, it's been tweeted, and that there was a point in time where we weren't quite sure if Envoy and Scump are going to be able to make it to Champs, and now it seems like they are going to be there. They will be there. But while they were down, I mean, obviously they can't be around their teammates and stuff like that. So for me, the question mark to OpTic is, what is the level of practice that they've had over the last couple of weeks heading into Champs? So, I mean, I'm sure that they're still scrimming. I'm sure that, you know, they're playing online scrims just like they would any other time. But for each of these squads, there's a question mark. I think for me personally, just when it comes to how long OpTic has been playing together, I mean, they're one of the few squads that have stood together this entire year. And I just don't feel like New York can probably turn it on in this short amount of time. So I think OpTic wins this, but I'm not quite sure. I'm not positive we're going to see one of those OpTic runs that we're necessarily used to seeing, especially when it comes time for Champs like this. I don't know. Had they been performing better throughout the Stage 5, even though they did say, you know, they did get a victory over Atlanta in Stage 5 group play, but at the Stage 5 major, didn't really play great. So I think OpTic probably wins this matchup. I just don't see the overall performance like we've seen in the past out of them. So I'll say 3-1 here over NYSL, but I don't think it's going to be a very long tournament for OpTic.
I agree for both of these teams. I think the other 4 teams in the winners bracket are in a much better position to see success long term in this event. I also think that either of them could get beat by one of the lower teams when they lose this first match, because I think there's going to be some full losing, if you can say that word in like a past tense type, you know. But I think that whoever loses here is going to lose full, and it might not be all their fault. I think that if you're New York and you lose, you know, it's your fault, Clay. You know, and you start getting in each other's heads, you get frustrated, and then you'll catch an L in the next match. I think if you're OpTic and you lose, you blame COVID, you blame not being able to practice the same, not being able to get the same routines in, Scump not being able to be himself for a couple of weeks, you know, Envoy not being able to be himself for a couple of weeks. You know, they said that scrims were not going very well because they couldn't really communicate well. And so you blame that. And I think the best teams in this event are going to be teams that can take an L and keep pushing. You know, the team that wins this event might be one of the teams that does take a loss earlier in the tournament. And so, but both of these teams are in a position where I just think whoever loses, they're going to take it on the chin a little bit. And then whoever loses to FaZe is going to do the same thing. So it's a hard pick for me right now, because if there is some like hard feelings, which we heard from Asim while Clayster was gone, if there is some hard feelings, you don't just repair that because the almighty Clayster decides. Like, that meme thing was a little too much, like you said. Like, the almighty Clayster came back on the roster and now he's our savior. They're like, no, you jerk, but I guess it's better to play with you, so whatever. I mean, you don't know how that's going to be some tough conversations. I'm sure Clayster's going to come in as a good leader and say, we can win champs. You know, I have the experience. I won the last 2. Like, we can do this. We can beat these teams. We've proven it earlier in the year. And then Bobble's going to come in and talk them up, and like I think that they have all of the ingredients except for their chemistry is lost, and that's hard to get back. That's the one thing that OpTic does have over them is chemistry. These guys have lost together all year long, and they've been so close so many times. The three-piece from Lamar and stuff, like they've been close to doing better in events, and they just haven't been able to close the door and get past losers finals. And so in my opinion, they're both. I think OpTic just has a little bit more in the tank. There's a guy on there. He's a ginger, and I think he's gonna leave it all on the table like he did last year, and blame his teammates if they catch an L, which will probably be close to accurate, because Scump is going to pull all the stops out. Like they showed all of his average KDs at champs. They're ridiculous. I don't know where I saw that graphic, but it was like, dang, Scump, like, okay, bro, bring out. And if he plays like that and they're on the same page, they're going to be hard to stop. And I think if Dashy has an incredible event, so I'm going to take OpTic 3-1, and we'll see what happens in the losers bracket, but I'm going to take OpTic 3-1 in this match.
I have a weird feeling, bro. I almost want to change my predictions, but I'm going to keep it. Shout out to the green wall. I mean, it was just OpTic day this week. I can't predict against them, dude. I hope they turn up. Come on, Sethy Seth. All right, guys, the next match that we know of, Dallas Empire versus Minnesota ROKKR. We are the first match kicking off champs on Thursday. That's at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. And don't forget, guys, we're doing a pre-show here on the ROKKR YouTube, so make sure you're subscribed. All that stuff, get locked in. We'll be live at 1:30 p.m. Central with the pre-show. So Dallas Empire here versus Minnesota ROKKR. We did just beat them fantastically at Stage 5. But Dallas is one of those teams, they're so fundamentally sound. They don't screw up often. And if they do screw up, they are nasty to play against. So I'm pretty nervous about this. I would way rather have been playing OpTic or NYSL. But with that being said, I think, what are we, 3-2 versus Dallas this year? Played really well against them at Stage 5 LAN. I think we alluded to or talked about the confidence on ROKKR that they've displayed lately. I think that they've got to feel more confident, obviously, having just won the most recent event, but let's just hope that that confidence doesn't lead to any complacency, because if there's any team that you can't be complacent against, it's Dallas Empire. With all that being said, though, I'll already know the pick. I'm picking ROKKR. I never do. How could I, with this on my wall, with this on my dude, I'm like, I look like the #1 fan right now for ROKKR, which I am, by the way. Fight me, 1v1 me, Gulag. I got ROKKR 3-1 here versus Empire, starting off champs. Knock on wood. Hope I'm not jinxing anything. I think the boys will be able to handle this. Possible they'll lose the control or the hard point or something, but I think they'll be able to pull it out. Knock on wood. I don't want to jinx. I would love to know what you guys think. Empire versus ROKKR here.
I'll pick first. I'll keep it, balanced. But I mean, so yes, I'm gonna pick Dallas to win this. However, you said it, MiDNiTE, and you're kind of talking about this. That team, they correct their mistakes better than most. They're really, really good at correcting their mistakes. And if I'm Dallas, and I'm just going to say this, I left some things in the closet for champs. Some ways of playing S&D, some strats, some counters. I left them in the tank. And maybe FaZe did some of the same, but they just got beat. But I think Dallas, they showed their potential by winning that opening hard point, against Minnesota. And I think, though, when it came to S&D, I think they left some strats in their pocket because they want to win this event. I think they're going to bring out some of that. However, here's the caveat. I think every other team that Minnesota would play in the losers bracket, if they do lose to Dallas, they're going to beat. And so I think you're going to see the Minnesota ROKKR in the losers final if they do lose this opening match. I think they'll beat Florida, LA, OpTic, Subliners, whoever's down there. And they're going to end up playing against either Ultra or FaZe in the losers final. And then I mean, I'm talking way too far of my predictions.
I was going to say, you are predicting the tournament, my dude. Let's rock.
I don't know who's the other teams that are going to be waiting for them or who they're going to play against in the elimination final. But I would say that opening up against Dallas, one of my favorite matches to watch all year is Dallas versus the Minnesota ROKKR because they're both fundamentally sound teams. But I just think Dallas left some stuff, and it's going to come down to map vetoes and all that kind of stuff, which of course IKON can speak better to. And so I'm going to pick Dallas 3-2 slugfest, might even go round 11, which will be great because I think the other opening match is not going to be as good, but it might even go round 11. Yes, the Minnesota ROKKR, of course, can take this. I do think, though, that the Minnesota ROKKR winning champs is going to depend on their ability to take a loss, whether it's a couple maps or an entire match, and to get back to what they did after going down 0-4. You know, just being like, it's not over, it's not chalked, it's never chalked. TCT, never chalked. Like, let's do our thing. Like, I think that this team is built to win this event. They proved it in the last one on land with fans. You definitely are going to have more fans at this next one. I think it's double the size of the venue. And because of the Minnesota ROKKR, no one will leave until it's over. And so I'm looking forward to that opening match. And I think that I just think that we're going to see a version of Dallas that we haven't seen. Now, Dallas might lose to the Ultra in the next round, but I think we're going to see some stuff that we haven't seen yet. And it's going to wow us, just like the ROKKR did. Their S&D was beyond everybody else. They just couldn't. I mean, they were making the Ultra wonder what the heck was going on. And so I hope they bring that same level of game. I'm looking forward. It's going to be a great match.
This is what I'll say. I think the traditional lore of the Dallas Empire respawns really well. I think that the traditional Dallas Empire recovers really well, and they learn from their mistakes. And, you know, they come back and they're a better squad than they were before. I just don't think that this is the traditional Dallas Empire team at this point in time. If you look at their performances at the Stage 5 Major, we decisively beat them in that first matchup. I mean, it really wasn't all that close. And then they went down a loser's bracket and they got a win over LA Thieves, but they got smoked in the map 1 hardpoint against LA Thieves. And then they won that matchup 3-1, but the next 3 maps, they won a round 11 S&D, they won a round 5 control, and then they won the last hardpoint by 15 points. And that might speak to, okay, they had the ability to clutch up in the moment or whatever, but right now you would expect Dallas to be a much better team than LA Thieves, and I don't know, I'm just not seeing it. So their first matchup in the Stage 5 Major on land, we beat them handedly, and then they barely squeaked by LA Thieves, and then they got absolutely obliterated by OpTic. There was like a 250 to 80 hard point or something like that. Like, it really wasn't all that close. So if you're looking at these two squads and how they're performing as of late, I think, sure, if you think back to MW Dallas Empire with Clay on the roster and whatnot, yes, they have the poise. They come back, they fix their mistakes, and they're ready for whatever is ahead of them. I just don't see the same thing with this roster. I think Illy has not been performing the way Illy performed last year. It's been a big hurt to them. I think when Vivid came on board, he gave them a lot initially. They gave them that initial boost that they needed to kind of return into that top 4, that top 5 echelon in there. But I think that they have a skill ceiling, and I think that they're already there. I can't really see them getting much better. And when you think back to the beginning of the year when Dallas was one of the top 2 squads, they were one of the top 2 squads throughout the first couple stages because Huke was playing like he was the best player in the world. And during those first 2 stages, Shotzzy did not have a first good part of the year. Like, the first 2 stages, my question for Dallas was, where is Shotzzy? Why are they not winning these big time matchups? And where is Shotzzy? Now, as of late, yes, he has come on, but I'm just kind of laying out the path of where Dallas was at the end of last year and where they're at right now. And I just don't have a ton of confidence in them. I think they got smoked by us. They got smoked by Dallas. They were lucky to beat LA Thieves. So, of course, a ton can change heading into Champs, as it always does, they have Crimsix on their squad, and we all know what happens when Crim is at Champs. That speaks for itself. But I think the path that we had throughout the Stage 5 Major, I think it's without a doubt Minnesota is the hottest squad in the CDL right now. Now, does that carry over? Time will tell, right? That's a huge question mark, as it always is. But when you turn around and you beat the Atlanta FaZe and you beat the Dallas Empire and you beat Toronto twice, I mean, that is quite a run. And again, we'll see if it continues. But I think Minnesota right now is just a better squad. I think they're playing with more confidence. I think that they're coming into this really thinking that they're one of the best teams, if not the team to beat. And I think that they're going to carry that with them throughout this tournament. So I got Minnesota here. I think it'll probably be 3-1. I could see potentially losing an S&D. Because unless it's on Miami, if it's Miami S&D, then it'll be a 3-0. But I'm going to go 3-1 here, Minnesota, and we'll see what happens.
I sure hope so, man. Oh, man. Guys, I love the predictions as always. Guys, in the chat or in the comments, let us know what you think. What are your predictions? Remember, USAA makes it easy to ensure all of your things. So check them out. Make sure you've got the right coverage with USAA, and shout out to them for sponsoring this segment. Man, name a more iconic duo. Kingdom trying to gas Dallas and predict them while Icon shakes his head and then comes back to give Dallas props, but ultimately predict against Dallas. If I had a nickel for every time that happened this season on the rotation, I would be filthy rich. I could buy at least 2 gumballs right there. Anyway, man, guys, it's been so fun. This is a good question to kind of close off on. Vital from the chat. Is Vivid better than Huke at Kingdom I come in? So Vivid coming in for Huke on Dallas. I mean, it took a little bit, but they came into form. Do you guys think that Vivid is a better, I guess, how do you kind of think of the question? Like, is he the better player or is he a better teammate on the Dallas Empire for that team? What do you guys think?
I said, yes, he's a better teammate, and that's what makes him better. His value is better because Vivid, when he first came on, did not look good, wasn't gelling with the team. They had one of their, I think that was their bad stage that they had, their bad major. And then Vivid went to Zuma and went to other players and asked, how can I be a better support for this team? He realized the opportunity he had with basically the Envy organization, one of the most storied franchises in Call of Duty history, and with Crimsix, the winningest player in Call of Duty history, and he wanted to make the most of it. And I think he did. I think he did everything that was required of him. I think Huke was, I'm not saying Huke is lazy or anything like that, but Huke wasn't willing to do what Crim and Rambo wanted him to do, in my opinion, for them to be a better team. They're not a team that's like, we want to get second and let Huke go off and get a lot of kills. They're a team that says, I don't care what your personal stats are, we want to get first. And so we're going to play to get first. It's the same reason why Nadeshot traded 9 players throughout the year. It's the same thing, same motivation. And so I think Vivid is a better fit, even though when they dropped Huke, I was like, what? But nobody would have thought but they brought FaZe to map 9. They brought FaZe to the 9th map and could have beat them, 10 rounds. And so I honestly believe that, and yes, I know they're different and all this kind of stuff, but in my opinion, that they have the more potential right now than if Huke was on the roster, unless they randomly did a Clayster and brought Huke in right now and just said, hey, Fry, they might beat some teams on the lower level, but then when they got to the good teams with team composure, like your Minnesota ROKKRs, like your Atlanta FaZes, even like your OpTic Chicagos, they'd struggle. And Crim and Rambo are not willing to risk that. And Hastro does probably what they say because they're great minds. Rambo's the Codfather. So I would say, yeah, Huke is not the better teammate in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately the question is, who's better for the Dallas Empire? For me, I think that you're probably onto something. I think that the morale around that squad with Vivid there is probably a bit better. But when you're talking about results, In stage 1, they lost in a grand final to Atlanta. In stage 4, they lost in a grand final to Atlanta. So if you're talking about results and performance, which one's better? I don't know, because they've achieved both. I just think that when it comes to Vivid being on the squad, seems like they're probably getting along better. It's probably a better time as a whole being in that building and whatnot. But I don't think, the only thing that I'll say is that when push comes to shove, Huke has the ability to be the best player in the world. We've already seen it. I mean, what he did in the early part of this game was absolutely unbelievable. He's a player very much so like Shotzi, where if they pop off, they can come out and they can single-handedly win maps for you. I don't think that Vivid is that player, but Vivid's not going to lose you. He's not going to single-handedly lose you any matches either. So I don't know. I think that the only difference really between the two rosters is that right now with Vivid, it's probably a much better time being in that environment, being in that building. But Huke does have that ultimate ability to just be better than anybody else on the sticks. So I don't know. It's a tough question. Who knows? I think either way, they're not going to beat us in round 1. That's what I'll say.
I love the vibes, bro. I do think Vivid is better for that Dallas team, but I think Huke is more of an X Factor player. Whatever team he's on, he can take over. But I mean, we saw it. I think there was a really good point made in the chat by Skull Crusher. Huke, I shouldn't say only works in 5v5, but this is what this person said. Since he's more kill focused, he may not be the best team player, but he has the raw skill. And no doubt in 5v5 Call of Duty, there's a much easier time. You know, if you have a kind of that extra teammate, I guess, who's roaming and just absolutely slaying the other team. But in 4v4, you lose your life because you're trying to go off. That sets your team back, and that's a big deal.
That's a great point.
It goes back to the fundamentals with Dallas Empire that we all talk about. So for Dallas Empire, I do think Vivid's better. But woo, it's Champs, baby. Yeah, let's go. It's Champs week, man. We play 2 p.m. Central Time on Thursday at the Gallon Center in LA at USC. You guys are going to Champs. Ooh, we got some fun stuff for you guys there in venue. Be on the lookout. We're going to keep you guys updated on our socials. If you guys are local here in Minneapolis, the Twin Cities area, we are having 2 watch parties. Hopefully, knock on wood, okay? Obviously, technically, our technical tournament run could end on Thursday, but it could also end on Sunday. It could end any day, right? So just make sure you're tuned into the ROKKR socials to know when and where our matches are and where you can attend a watch party. I know on Thursday and Friday, we will have an all-ages watch party going at O'Donovan's in Minneapolis. It's right by First Ave. Cool spot. And then on the weekend, knock on wood, Simba, good luck pets for my cat. You can't see him, but I'm petting my cat for good luck. If we're playing on Saturday and Sunday, O'Donovan's all ages will be open near First Ave in Minneapolis. If you want to have a plus 21 time, go to Up Down. That's my spot. Hit me with a Tito's and cranberry and a chip, please. Please, on Sunday. Anyway, I'll catch you guys later. Thank you, everyone, so much for watching. Producer Shannon in the chat, urging people before we go, like the video, y'all. Subscribe if you're not. Exactly. We'll see you guys back here 1:30 p.m. Central for the pre-show on Thursday before the match, which is at 2 p.m. Central. Make sure you tune in. It's Champs time, baby. This is the longest outro ever. I think I nailed it, though. Catch you guys later.